All right, let's talk about something that is quietly reshaping the entire world of artificial intelligence, synthetic data. Now, I know it sounds like something straight out of science fiction, but it is very, very real. And as we're about to see, it's fast becoming one of the most important forces in all of tech.
Okay, so to really get to the heart of this, we've got to frame the whole conversation around one single big question.
So, why this topic? Why now? I mean, for years, AI has been all about massive amounts of real-world data. But that's changing, and it is changing fast. We're about to dig into exactly why this artificial information is suddenly front and center in the AI universe.
To get a sense of just how big this shift is, just look at this number, 60%. Let that sink in for a second. The sources we're looking at predict that by 2024, which is basically right now, the majority of data used for training AI will be synthetic. We are not talking about a small trend here. This is a monumental change.
And experts are framing this as way more than just a technical upgrade. This quote really nails it. Synthetic data is being seen as a fundamental necessity because we've kind of hit a wall with real-world info. The limits on privacy, how much is even available, and of course, all the biases baked into it.
Okay, so we get why it's a big deal, but what is synthetic data exactly? Let's break down the nuts and bolts.
At its core, it's actually pretty straightforward. Imagine you have a huge database of, say, customer photos. Instead of using those actual real photos, an AI studies them. And then it creates brand new, totally photorealistic faces of people who have never existed. That is synthetic data. It's got all the same characteristics, right? The age, the diversity, the lighting, but it is 100% artificial.
And this brings us to a key tension, a big debate in the field. On one hand, you've got real-world data. And yeah, it's authentic, but man, is it messy. It's expensive to get, and it is just loaded with privacy risks. Then on the other hand, you've got synthetic data. It can be clean, it's cheap, and it can be totally anonymous. So you see this constant weighing of the trade-offs, authenticity versus practicality.
So how is this stuff even made? Well, it's a surprisingly simple but incredibly powerful three-step process. First, you take a generative AI, like a GAN, which has these two neural networks kind of competing against each other, and you feed it a real dataset. Now here's the key. The AI doesn't just memorize the data. That's not what's happening. Instead, it learns the underlying patterns, the rules of the game. And then, for the final step, it uses those rules to generate completely new data from scratch.
And when you lay it out like this, the advantages become crystal clear. Look at this. You can create data for those super rare edge cases, like a self-driving car needing to spot a moose on a dark road at midnight. You don't have to wait around to find that in the real world. For developers, having that kind of control, it's an absolute game changer.
Okay, and this right here, this is a point that's so easy to miss, but it is absolutely critical. See, real-world data reflects our real-world biases. It's just a fact. So if your company's historical hiring data is biased, guess what? Your AI is going to learn that bias. But with synthetic data, you can intentionally create a perfectly balanced data set, essentially teaching the AI to be fair from the ground up.
All right, so we know what it is, we know how it's made, but let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture. The so what question. Why should anyone outside of a tech company even care about this?
This is really where the rubber meets the road. I mean, look at these industries. In healthcare, we're talking about using synthetic patient data to speed up drug discovery, all without putting real patient privacy at risk. In the auto world, it's being used to simulate millions of miles of driving in a single day. The applications are already huge, and they're just getting bigger.
So let's translate what this chart really means for you, for all of us. It means safer cars on the road. It means more effective medical treatments. It means better financial security. And all of this is being powered by data that didn't come from a single real person. It's like this invisible engine humming in the background, helping to solve some really tangible, real-world problems.
So, all of this leads to some pretty major consequences. On the plus side, well, we're less reliant on collecting everyone's personal data, and innovation can happen a lot faster. But there's a flip side, a really fascinating challenge called model collapse. Imagine an AI that's trained only on synthetic data. It could get trapped in this kind of artificial echo chamber. Since it never sees any new real-world info, it might start amplifying its own tiny mistakes over and over until it basically loses its grip on reality.
Which, naturally, brings us to our last section. What comes next? Now that we've got a handle on the present, let's look at where this is all going. The sources we've been looking at lay out this pretty wild roadmap for the future. In the near term, by 2025, it's expected to completely dominate AI testing.
By 2028, it's going to be the standard for training most of the big models out there. And then, long term, we're talking 2030 and beyond, the vision is to create entire virtual worlds, whole simulated realities, just for AIs to learn and interact in, almost totally separate from our own world. Pretty wild, right?
And so that leaves us with this one big final question, doesn't it? We have this incredibly powerful tool that could help us solve huge issues like bias, privacy, and just not having enough data. But how do we make sure it actually builds a better, fair AI future, instead of just creating that artificial echo chamber we talked about? How do we ensure the AI doesn't lose touch with reality? That right there is the challenge ahead. Thanks for digging into this with me.